Hey everybody, welcome to our early comics review video. I'm Andy.
I'm Matt.
We're here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and this is our bigger show where we show you some of the biggest and best books that are coming out this week. Can I say it any faster? Everything we're going to be talking about is over at infinityflux.net. So if you want to head over there, you can check out all the books. They're already up. You can order them. So if you see something, you hear something we say, and you say, that sounds pretty good, head over there and order
right
a
now.
copy.
Yeah.
Or if you're local, come by the store and pick one up. But there's some great books coming out this week. Some ones I've waited a long time for, especially what you're going to be starting with. So let's get into it.
Yeah, we're going to start with Wolverine #1. This is the next in the From the Ashes era of X-Men books. This is the mainline Wolverine book, not to be confused with Wolverine Revenge, which is in its own continuity. That's a miniseries. This is the full ongoing, written by Saladin Ahmed. The art is by Martin Coccolo. This is awesome. This book is awesome. I'm happy to say this book is so good. So since the fall of Krakoa, Wolverine has left the X-Men behind, and he is now living in the woods, running in a pack of wolves, basically. And I should mention, too, that this takes place before Jed McKay's X-Men #1 and Uncanny X-Men #1 from Gail Simone. This happens before all that. I don't know how much of the series will take place before that, but when you read it, it's pretty obvious, too. There's a little note in there as well. So he's hanging out in the woods. He's living with these wolves, and one day Nightcrawler shows up in the woods tracking him because he wants to convince Wolverine to come back to the X-Men, presumably with the group he's with, Rogue and Gambit. And Wolverine, he doesn't want to. He's like, I'm done with all that. I'm here now, and I'm enjoying this. Well, around the same time, the villain Cyber shows up in those same ones as well, and he's also tracking Wolverine. Although I don't think we know why. They never really said why he was tracking.
Not right off. No.
Yeah. So
almost seemed more like a vendetta.
Yeah.
Seemed more personal to him.
Right. Well, Cyber does some pretty terrible things to a group of campers. The pretty violent, gruesome things. And when Wolverine and Nightcrawler see what happened, Wolverine realizes, I guess I can't leave this life behind after all. I guess I do have to go back. And all of that leads to a pretty awesome yet brutal confrontation between Wolverine and Cyber. It gets pretty violent, pretty bloody, and pretty cool. And it seems like there's also something else in the woods that might play into the larger story arc later. We know that we've seen on the covers of issue 2 that Wendigo is going to show up, but that's not what I'm talking about. There's something else that's weird and mysterious.
And there's something because of their fight that happens.
Right.
It's almost like a sound goes out.
Yeah.
That you'll have to read it to see, because it's really interesting. Because at first I was like trying to understand it, and then I was like, oh, this is something deeper.
Yeah, and I think that might play into the larger story of probably at least this first story arc. But this is awesome. This felt like, you said, this felt like kind of a return to more like 90s Wolverine,
it's not too much. A Wolverine book I always feel like works the best when it's centered on Wolverine, and it's a kind of a smaller story. He's not dealing with shield agents and all a ton of stuff. It's like, okay, you're following Wolverine and his lonesome life.
Yeah, it's stuff. Wolverine in the snowy wilderness fighting a bad guy. And Nightcrawler's there too, some, but it's mostly just Wolverine in the wilderness, taking on a bad guy, claws, fists, blood, all that kind of stuff. It's just really, really good.
Wolverine trading card and said, what's the story going on in this?
Yeah.
And with Wolverine going through the woods and stuff. And it's like, well, yeah, this is that. Plus, you get Nightcrawler in this, which is, pretty much Wolverine's best friend.
Yeah.
And seeing them together is awesome. It's kind of the whole Wolverine package in one.
Right. Yeah, it's great. Can't recommend it enough. So another great book in the From the Ashes era of X-Men books. So there is our A cover right there. We have this John Tyler Christopher Negative Space variant. We have a Peach Momoko variant. We've got this Patrick Gleason variant right here. And it's a nice foil variant too, which is really cool.
Like the adamantium variant or something like that.
Yeah. We have this 1 in 25 John Romita Jr. variant that we're selling for $14.99. And then we have the 1 in 50 Mike Zeck Hidden Gem variant. 1 in 50, did I say that? Yeah.
Yep.
And we're selling that one for $29.99. Great book. I really enjoyed this.
Only be better if he's wearing the brown suit.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
But it feels like if they're trying to, if you liked X-Men '97, it's just classic Wolverine stuff. Okay, next up, I've got a pretty big one this week. This is Avengers Assemble #1. So this is by Steve Orlando and
Corey Smith.
Corey Smith.
Yeah.
I can't remember which Smith it was. And Corey Smith. And this is really cool. So we knew going into this kind of the idea of it. This kind of special team of Avengers. It's going to be changing all the time. But reading this, I actually get where it comes from. So during Blood Hunt, Captain America, during the Avengers Blood Hunt story, Captain America had to kind of put together a ragtag group of heroes, basically what he had at the moment. So that's where you got Hercules and Hazmat and that team coming in there. And in this, Captain America addresses that as he's talking to Jarvis at Avengers Mansion, and he's like, we need more things like that. Like, we need special teams for special missions. And so he decides to create what he calls the Avengers Emergency Response Squad. Which I think did he call it that in the other one? Or
no, just this one, yeah.
But he says we need a special team for that, and he puts out a call to a bunch of different heroes, and a few of them show up like
all
right
of these
away.
Guys right here,
But starting with Shang-Chi, Photon, and Wasp are the first ones to show up, and it's a good thing they showed up because immediately something goes down that requires their attention, because in the beginning of the book we see Sin, the daughter of Red Skull, has found an artifact, the death mask of Irida, the goddess of hate. And those two things put together, it's going to be bad. And so it is up to this specialized Avengers team, even one that's not like hand put together because they're the perfect ones for this mission, which I think makes it more interesting.
Is that they were just the ones who were there?
So you've got these characters that, really you don't see interact. Photon, Shang-Chi, Wasp, and Captain America come together for this mission. And it's really cool to see how they work through it. And it's pretty much a one-and-done story.
And I believe this is a 5-issue miniseries. I believe each issue is just a one and done with it, like you said, a different group of Avengers taking on a different mission, which I think sounds super fun.
There is what it seems at the end, maybe a bigger story going on. With some stuff, but that's only seeded a little bit throughout it. And the other parts of the story I liked almost as much is the other heroes showing up to the Avengers Mansion, but Captain America's not there. They realize he went on a mission, so Hawkeye, the first one to show up, and as other members come in, you get to see all of them interact and them kind of being like, when's the last time I saw you and stuff. It's really cool. Reminds me of old Avengers books. When it was way more like they're living in the mansion. It was more personal, and they'd eat breakfast. They do all that. It's more of like, hey, these are people too.
And I thought about it like, this feels like 70s and 80s Avengers because they're on monitor duty. Like where somebody's got to stay behind and watch the monitors to keep an eye out if there's a threat that pops up so that we can go handle it. Like it's that kind of stuff.
And just really fun. So you've got the contrast between the action with the main team and then some really fun kind of world building stuff as Hawkeye kind of he plays cards with some other ones.
Although it did feel weird because all of these characters show up in the book, but it did feel weird to see most of the team like sitting around a big table at Avengers Mansion playing cards and getting reacquainted, while 4 of their buddies are out getting their butts kicked by Sin. It's like, hey, shouldn't they be out there helping him? They're not doing anything, But
they didn't have a good way to transport there,
right? Maybe I'm assuming they didn't know, but it's like, hey, Jarvis, maybe you should. Maybe he didn't know either.
Jarvis is too busy cleaning unstable molecules,
making tea.
But really fun first issue. I hope that this balloons into more than just a 5-issue miniseries. I hope we get. I would love just a even like bi-weekly book
Oh my
with
gosh, that'd be great.
just a different team each time.
Yeah.
So there is your A cover. And that is the only cover I think I have right now for that one. Oh, nope, I've got them. They just fell down.
Oh.
So we have this one, which is the Smith variant. I think it's also called the Jackets variant.
Yeah.
And when you read it, you'll find out it's kind of goofy, but fun.
In a good way. Goofy in a good way.
Yeah. We've got a Lasso variant.
I like that one.
Yeah, this is very
That's my
classic
favorite,
looking.
I think, one.
And we also have this 1 in 25 Betsy Cola variant we're selling for $24.99.
And before we move on from that, I have to bring up Mask again from the 80s. You guys who saw Mask, Matt Tracker at the beginning of the episode used to assemble the perfect team for the mission that they were going to go on in that episode. And this feels like that. Steve Rogers, like, I got to find the perfect, maybe not this issue, I got to find the perfect team to take on this mission. And here's my big roster, and I got to pluck out which ones I want. Like, it's that kind of thing, and it's awesome.
Plus, also, you see She-Hulk on the cover. This kind of follows up from where She-Hulk's series left off.
Yeah.
When she got the invitation to join the Avengers, you see her show up in this as well.
Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah, I like that one. That's just a fun comic book is what I think. That's a fun book. All right, so another fun book, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #2. Feels like forever since the first one came out, so I'm glad to have this one. This is written by Jason Aaron, and the art in this one is by Raphael Albuquerque. Each of the first 4 issues in the series focuses on a different turtle. They're all written by Jason Aaron, but each issue is done by a different artist. Joel Jones did the first issue, which was focused on Raphael, and now we got Michelangelo. It's funny because the first issue focused on Raphael, and this one is drawn by Raphael.
Oh, wow.
2 different Raphaels, so yeah, Michelangelo in here. And after the end of the last series, the Turtles have split up, and Michelangelo has moved to Japan, where he has become this big superstar. He is the star of this like ninja superhero type show, and he is loving it, and everybody loves him, and it seems like he's having the time of his life. But internally, what he doesn't let people see is he really just wants to be back with his brothers. And there's a great scene where he is having this like really fancy dinner with all of these other celebrities, and they're all yucking it up, having a great time. And he's like, "Wow, this may be the best meal I ever had." And then the next page is he's like his internal monologue. He's like, "Actually, that's not. I lied. That's not the best meal I ever had." And it showed him sitting on the floor in the sewer with his brothers eating pizza.
Yeah.
And that one got me for a second. I was like, "Wow, that was a great way to tell that." So he wishes he could be back with his brothers in New York. Well, one night in his penthouse, he is attacked by a mysterious group of ninjas, which I believe are the same ones that attacked Raphael in the prison that he was in last issue. And so there's this mystery of like, who is this new group of ninjas who are attacking the different turtles? Why are they doing it now? What do they want? That kind of thing. But yeah, this is a really good issue. I will say that the ending was a bit of a surprise. I won't tell you what it is, but it should lead into. I don't know if we'll see that in the next one.
I was just wondering about that as well, because there's something that it does leave on a cliffhanger, but we know we've still got to get through 2 other turtles.
Yeah, Leonardo is the focus of the next one, so I don't know. I
don't think we're going to see the resolution to something that's pretty, like, of the moment. Like, something that's going on right then, and it's weird to cut away from it and it not be, like, come back at the beginning of the next issue.
Right. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. I know it will all get wrapped up at some point. It's just like, is it going to be the next issue or issue number 5 when the main story gets going? So we'll have to wait and see. But they're building this cool story, and I really want to see how it all plays out. So another great issue of this new Ninja Turtle series. Highly recommend it if you're a Ninja Turtles fan. So we have our A cover right there, and we've got this Shaw variant. We have this really awesome Kevin Eastman variant. I really like that. Kind of an homage to the original Ninja Turtles #1, peering around that corner. This is a really funny Gonzo variant. That's pretty much Mikey's life in Japan. He's doing a lot of that kind of stuff. And then here is this Raphael Albuquerque variant. So that's your interior artist. So the book looks like that. It's gorgeous. We have a 1 in 25 Earls variant, which we're selling for $19.99. There's a lot of fun Easter eggs on this cover. And then we have a 1 in 50 Robertson variant that we're selling for $34.99.
Also, what I really like now that we're 2 issues into it is it was weird when they announced that it was wasn't a reboot. It was a continuation of their previous run. And it's like, how are you going to do that and not make it not new reader friendly? But reading these two, basically, if someone's new to this, you go, something happened and the turtles kind of split up.
Yeah.
That's all you need to
Yeah.
know.
That's all that really matters.
So next up, I've got Uncanny X-Men #2. And I was really excited about this one. I really liked the first one, but it left a lot of questions, kind of about just everything going on, this team and what they're doing. Well, I'll say this one is really good. I like this one better than the first issue.
Yeah.
And this one is broken up into a couple of parts, which it does make me feel like this is, along with the main X-Men, like, this is where you're going to get big story beats. So part of this is a flashback to Charles Xavier back when he was in school, back when he could still walk, uh, and he's on campus and all of this stuff. And he meets what seems to potentially become maybe his first girlfriend named Sarah, who is definitely kind of the polar opposite of Charles, where he's very reserved, very bookish. Sarah seems pretty outgoing and all of that. And
it's very much Peter Parker and Mary Jane back in the 70s, how she was very flighty and he was like a book nerd, and she's like, let's go parties. It's a lot like that.
Yeah, and reading this, I was like, this is cool, but I don't quite understand, because that wasn't in the first issue. What is this?
Right.
Well, it will make sense. Meanwhile, back in the present day, we've got Rogue, Gambit, and Wolverine confront this group of teens that seem to be mutants that they ran into right at the end of the last issue, and a horse. There is a horse among them as well, though.
And the horse does play a factor.
It does play a factor, and I don't want to give too much away about this issue because it is really cool, but the X-Men are very untrusting at this point. So, of course, Wolverine is going to go up and be like, hey, you need to explain everything. And their leader doesn't back down from Wolverine. Some things happen, some things with Gambit and the Eye of Agamotto that he still has, and of course a fight breaks out between them. And these new teens can handle themselves very well. They're clearly not as good as the X-Men, but they do catch them by surprise.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Which is really interesting. But we do learn their names. So this does seem to be the first appearance of the characters Jitter, Ransom, Death Dream, and Calico.
Well, they showed up at the end of last issue.
Well, yeah, but
first full appearance.
First full appearance, and first where you get their names,
right,
and everything like that.
First where you see them talk and see them in action, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. So very interesting there, and we'll have to learn more about them as we go. But they're a team. You do get the feeling they're mutants, but maybe not all of them. You'll have to see. And then kind of the third thing going on in here is we find out what's going on with Grey Malkin Prison, which is the Xavier School, but what it's become now as the leader there discovers the Danger Room, and you find out that they have some mutants that we're familiar with under their capture or whatever. And this seems to be leading to some pretty big things going forward. Another thing I really did like, and I don't want to give it away, but it does tie in with the Free Comic Book Day story with Jubilee checking out the mansion.
Yeah.
It all kind of comes together in this issue. So very cool, and a surprise ending that also ties everything together in a way that I didn't even realize until I was re-skimming back through it, and I didn't realize
I didn't either.
There was a name that was said at the end, and I was like, oh, now I get it.
Well, and when I realized that's when this book became really impressive to me, because the first issue, I really liked it. I was a little bit turned off with there was like 4 different subplots happening in the first issue. I was like, what is going on? What does all this mean? This issue connects them all.
Yeah.
And I was I was like, what, why does that name, why is that supposed to be a big deal? Oh.
Yeah.
And then I was like, holy cow, everything that's going on in this book connects together, and you'll see it in this. And I thought that was really well done.
It's a big orchestrated thing. And then you realize, oh yeah, Gail Simone is a master.
It was really well done.
Great issue. Hopefully everyone is on board for this one. I feel like, the big ones right now, you've got the regular X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, or like the ones leading the progression of the mutant story.
Right.
And then you have the other ones if you want to follow specific characters or whatever, but it seems like maybe some of the big swings, the big maybe whatever events come are gonna kind of come out of these books, because you do also see the other side of the conversation that we
That's
saw
right.
in the previous issue of X-Men with Cyclops on the phone with Rogue. You see Rogue's side of that
Hmm.
conversation. So even that is so well orchestrated. So
And you see
definitely,
how Cyclops and Rogue definitely have different ideas about what they should be doing right now.
yeah,
Cyclops is very, I just want to survive, and Rogue is like, no, I want to help other people that need
yeah.
help, and Cyclops is like, no, I just want to focus on my guys and making sure
Hmm.
we're good. So they're very opposing ideologies right now.
Yes. So definitely check it out. That is Uncanny X-Men #2. We got some variants for this. So we've got the Vecchio Gambit variant, which we're getting kind of those one
Yeah,
character covers, which are really cool. We also have the Godzilla variant, the Baldion Godzilla variant with Rogue.
which I want to see that story. I want
Yeah.
to see Rogue fight Godzilla.
We've got a 1 in 25 Mercado variant that we are selling for $14.99. There's some of your new characters on there. And lastly, we have a 1 in 50. Yes, I believe this is the 1 in 50 Vecchio variant we're selling for $49.99. It's a version of that other cover.
Yeah, yeah. After reading this second issue, that this issue locked in this series for me.
Yeah.
The first one I was a little bit iffy, but this one sealed the deal. All right, so next up we've got a new book from Distillery called Time Waits. This is written by Chip Zdarsky and David Brothers, and Marcus Toe is the artist. Now, I will say that this did not arrive at our shop until today,
Mm-hmm.
so I did not have time to read the full thing, but I did read about the first half of it or so, and plus going off that and based on the solicitations, kind of wanted to give you a little bit of an idea about what this is about. This is about a guy named Blue, and that's him right there. He's actually from the future, and he was part of this kind of like I don't know if it's like a military unit, but he was part of these like mercenaries or something. And he was sent back in time to our present, his past, our present, to do a job. But instead, he stayed there and he started doing. He built a life with the sheriff of a small town named Grace, and that's where this issue picks up. Is he's already in his past, our present, and they're living together, and they're about to adopt a kid. And we see a lot of Grace and the kid interacting. It's really nice. And he's just like a normal dude. He's just like, I want to work in the garden, and I want to become an expert gardener, and I want to learn how to build a cake and that kind of thing. So it's all very quaint, small town, except for the fact that his team from the future, he didn't finish his job that he was supposed to do. So they come back to their past, our present, to get at him, and that's what the crux of the story is. And like I said, I didn't have time to read the whole thing, so I actually don't know how it ends. But it's real cool. I like the artwork. I like the premise. And you can see there's even when Blue is gardening, he gets glimpses of it's almost kind of sort of like PTSD, where he gets these flashes and he kind of like zones out. It's not exactly that, but it's very similar. So there's something to him that he's not quite letting Grace in on, and what's going to happen when his team comes back to get him. So it's very, very cool. It looks great. And, flipping through the rest, it looks like there's some cool action near the end. So, yeah, really cool, interesting story, little time travel, just fun action type sci-fi thing. So this is our A cover. We do have some variants, but when we were putting the books together, they were still doing the polls and everything. So check our website, infinityflux.net, to see which variants we have of this. But yeah, a very cool new distillery book.
Next up, I've got a new indie book. This is Dark Empty Void #1, and this is really cool. So this is by Zach Kaplan, and the art is by Chris Sheehan. And in this, there is in Alaska a kind of a science lab um, industry thing going on there. It's not like a little thing. It's like a big um, place that they're working on it, because they are creating their own black hole
Mm.
and stabilizing it and all of that.
Who doesn't want to create their own black hole?
I mean, it would be interesting until things would go horribly
Mm-hmm.
wrong, which maybe is what happens in here. But we do get a sample of that in the beginning, how they're doing this. And then you see that they need to make a call out because something happens, and that is where we meet kind of our main character in this, named Joy. She's a psychology teacher. She's not even like a practicing psychologist, and she kind of says that she's like, I just teach others how to do
Yeah.
this, but she's got her own stuff going on, kind of her own depressions and everything, because we do see that she had a relationship with someone, and it didn't go well. Seems like that's going to be kind of part of her story, but she soon gets a call from that person, who is one of those scientists working in Alaska, and he calls and says, "Hey, I need you for something that's going on here. I can't tell you what it is because it's really private." But she knows a little bit about what their job is. She knows they're working with a black hole and everything. And what causes her to go, even though she's very upset at this man, is he says someone came through. And we find out that someone came through the black hole from wherever to this facility. And she's like, "Why do you need me? Like, I'm not even a psychiatrist. I just theoretical. I teach about it." And they're like, "Well, we're all in the land of theory here."
Hmm.
And so they want to bring her in because they know she has a relationship with one of the guys there. Even though they're not on great terms, he still trusts her and knows that she'll keep her mouth shut, because it's a very private, thing. They can't let this get out. And we see in the story that it's going to be learning about this person who did come through, and Joy's trying to work with them about like what's going on, and then maybe she's going to have to take her own trip through the black hole, but
Oh wow.
we don't know
Okay.
for sure. But it seems like that's where they're going. So
Sounds dangerous.
really cool first issue of this. I would say it's dark sci-fi. It's not like high sci-fi with aliens and
Yeah.
tech and all that kind of stuff. This is really like based in science
Okay.
story, but sounds really interesting, and I can't wait to see where it goes from here. But I just have the one cover for this one.
Well, I have kind of a dark book too. This is Spider-Man Reign 2, number 3. And I want to talk about this now because this issue is pretty crazy. There's not a whole lot I can say about it without spoiling a whole bunch of stuff. But I will say that, the whole crux of this series is Peter wanting to find Mary Jane. We saw in the first issue that he actually traveled back in time to try to. He traveled back in time to try to save his time, his future, his present, our future, basically. But he was using that as an opportunity to find and save Mary Jane from the terrible thing that happened to her that we saw in the first series from several years ago. Well, at the very end of last issue, he did find Mary Jane, and in this one, we see all of that come to fruition. And let's just say it's not a very happy reunion whatsoever. But what's crazy about this is that she gives him some information that is very surprising both to him and to us as readers, and it's dark.
Hmm.
And Miles, kind of an old man Miles, catches up to Peter as well and gives him some more information that's a surprise to him and us as the readers. It's also kind of dark, and I was just kind of blown away with how. I mean, it's not dark as in like violent and gruesome and that kind of thing, but it's just, you read it, you're like, holy
Heavy.
cow, yeah, it's heavy. It's like, oh my gosh, that is, especially for a Spider-Man book, this is just really dark. And so I know it's in the middle of the series, and people, if you're reading this, you're probably already on board by now, and this wouldn't be a good place to jump on this series. You may want to go grab the first two issues, but just with how dark and heavy and creative it all is, and oh my gosh, I have so many oh my gosh moments in this that I just wanted to talk about it now. So yeah, if you're reading the series, please do not miss this issue because there's some wild stuff in this. And I only have the one cover for this one as well.
Well, next up, you'll have to tell me all those things.
Yeah,
What happened there?
it's crazy.
Well, next up, I have Star Wars issue number 50, and this one is big because this is the final issue of the ongoing Star Wars book that started way back in 2015.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, it's been like started over at number one a few times, but we are about to enter in the time where there is not a ongoing Star Wars title called Star Wars or Darth Vader since then. So
Has Vader ended too?
Vader has issue 50
Okay,
coming up
gotcha.
as well, and then they'll both be over. But so this is big. This is the ending of an era before we kind of embark into new territory in October and going forward with the miniseries we've got, and then we don't really know what's going to come after those. With is there going to be a new Star Wars ongoing series? Are they going to try to do a Star Wars and something like Vader? But
Hmm.
in the timeline, you don't have Vader anymore, which also very sad today that James Earl Jones passed
I saw
away.
that. Yeah.
I didn't even plan wearing the shirt for that, but it's a lot of
It was the
endings.
Force.
It
Yeah.
was the Force that surrounds us and binds us and holds the galaxy together. But I do want to talk about this issue because it is really, really cool. Um, in this, it actually jumps forward in time to when Luke has already set up his Jedi Academy on Ossus, and young Ben Solo is a student there. And Luke goes to him and is like, "Hey, we've got some training to do. I want to tell you a story." So most of this issue is Luke telling Ben this story and kind of him interjecting along the way. It's fun to hear what Ben knows of things that we know at this point. Because Luke's like, "Hey, did I ever tell you about this time or whatever? Or when me and your mom and stuff went out on these missions?" And he's like, "Is that when my dad was like frozen or whatever?" And
Mhm.
he's like, "Yeah, it was during that time." But in this, we see Luke tells a story about where he goes back to the planet Gazian, which was a really interesting story arc. It's a planet where when the characters kind of step foot into it or kind of submerge into it, it holds on to that essence of them from right then. So there's these kind of like phantoms that have memories of these characters. And Luke goes back there to get some more answers than last time he was there, and he meets some spirit type things of characters even from back in the High Republic that we know. But they tell him about a artifact, an item that could destroy the Emperor from a distance.
Mm.
Like you could be across the galaxy and it could kill him.
Remote control death.
Yeah. And, of course, this seems too good to be true, but also kind of scary. And the team, Luke, Leia, Lando, Chewbacca, the droids, they all go out to find this, and they find it. And then it's about, should we use this? Of course, we know they don't. We know how it ends. But what stops them from doing this? And how does this machine or whatever it is work? You have to read to find out. But this is also kind of a dark issue when they learn what is the cost of kind of the actions they
Mm.
take. So, really interesting final issue. It's a very dark final issue. It's not like, they don't stand together and it's like, we're going to save the galaxy, and
Yeah.
then it continues on. It's like, no, it kind of has darker undertones, but I thought it was really, really good and a great way to cap off just an era of Star Wars storytelling. And next up in October, we have Star Wars The Battle of Jakku Insurgency Rising, which will take place after Return of the Jedi. So this butts up all the way to Return of the Jedi, and then we'll be going past that and beyond going forward. So very exciting, but just a great final issue to end on. So I've got our A cover here. We also have this really cool Segovia variant, and that person right there is someone that he runs into on that planet. And lastly, I love this one as well. This is the one in 25 David Lopez variant. We're selling for $44.99 with the kind of the age Luke is when he's telling the story.
Yeah. All right. Well, the Venom War is raging on, and now Wolverine's going to get involved. This is Venom War Wolverine #1. This is by Tim Seeley and Tony Fleeks, your Stray Dogs and Feral team, and also Kev Walker is the artist. And in this one, this starts out Wolverine's just in a bar. He's playing pool. When the Venom War starts, and this zombiote finds its way into the bar and latches onto this other kid that he's playing pool with before jumping over to Wolverine. But when it happens, it doesn't look like the typical venomized Wolverine, with the big jaw and the tongue. It's much more monstrous when this zombie latches onto Wolverine, and his healing factor can't fight it off like usual. And Wolverine, like we can hear his inner monologue, and he's like, I can feel it searching my memories, that kind of thing. And we actually get a flashback scene of him saving this. I guess you'd call her like an innkeeper. Her name's Emily, from an abusive husband. And when his healing factor finally is able to rid his body of this zombiote, he finds that he is at Emily's in, or it's almost like an Airbnb or something like that, little town home that she rents out for the season, I guess. And she sort of helps nurse him back to health, and he realizes that if I, he hears about what's going down at the wrestling arena where the Venom War is going on. He's like, if I go down there, if I get infected again with this weird symbiote that seems much different than what I've seen before, he's like, if that happens again, it's going to be even more dangerous than it will be if I don't get involved at all. So I'm just going to chill here, and I'm going to let all that play out, and I'm not going to get involved whatsoever. But this is not a one shot. This is like a 3 or 4 issue tie-in series, so we know that he is going to get wrapped up in this whole thing at some point. It's just a matter of how. But yeah, just kind of a neat book because it's half Venom War, but also half uh, like a Wolverine story. Just showing a little bit more another experience he had in his past and other characters that he met, and what he's going through all this. So yeah, just a really cool book if you're getting the Venom War stuff. This one was pretty good. I've liked most of the Venom War stuff so far, so this one was a good one as well. And that's our A cover, and then we have this Kasara variant. So well, it kind of sort of looks like that, but it's more gruesome than even this.
Oh,
yeah, pretty interesting.
I would say not as extreme.
No,
as
it's more extreme than this.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Next up, real quick, I want to talk about Transformers number 12. This is the end of the second story arc for Transformers, and it is a big story. So the Transformers are dealing with Cybertron coming through this portal to Earth, and it's, Shockwave is zapping the Earth, pulling the Energon out of it because they learned, like in the oceans and everything, there's residual Energon. And the Transformers are there to stop it. I guess I say Transformers as they're good guys. The Autobots are there.
Right.
They're all Transformers. The Autobots are there to stop them, led by Optimus Prime, of course. And this is a big task for them to take on. Like, you've got these two planets coming at each other. I'm surprised it doesn't cut to scientists or people being like, what's that?
Yeah.
But it's a crazy time on this planet with G.I. Joe and the Transformers and all of that. But in this, I won't give away, how all this is resolved and everything, but Optimus does get a chance to face off one-on-one against Shockwave, who has kind of taken up the leadership of the Decepticons. And this is big because Optimus, this kind of virtuous...
He's a pacifist,
yeah. Maybe takes things a little too far, but why does he do that? And I think this is hints to storylines to come.
Yeah.
As, we get some kind of vague things that happen, but are very dark for Optimus. Plus, we get just really cool over-the-top action. I don't want to give away what Beachcomber does, but at the end, it's just the coolest, most, over the top.
And it made me think of another character from another series.
Another universe,
yeah,
maybe?
Right, uh-huh.
Yeah, I came in and I was like, really? Like, that whole scene looks like I could replace you with someone else.
Yeah, right.
But just really cool. But the devastation from what has happened here, it seems like that is also going to last a while, because at the end, Optimus is kind of wondering, what have I done?
Yeah. So this is another kind of dark book, just like the one I had in Star Wars. There's some heavy stories this week.
Yeah, but art in this is fantastic. Jorge Corona's art. There's some really cool, iconic scenes, and just the fight scenes are over the top. What a great artist to follow Daniel Warren Johnson originally, because he pulls off a lot of that.
Is he doing the next story art?
I don't remember. I know there is kind of either a one-shot or a short flashback story that is coming up next. They do show the image of at the end of this, so we'll have to see. I don't remember who's doing the art on it, but it's just, Transformers, fantastic as always, but just continues as it wraps up this second story arc with issue number 12. And I'm just wondering about the ramifications of this through the entire Energon universe.
Jason Howard does the art for the next issue. But I don't know if that's the one and done. Oh, it looks like it might be Jason Howard for a while.
Okay. And who was there's a character on the cover of...
Actually, Jorge Corona. I don't know. Maybe it's only a couple issues. I'm
Yeah,
not sure yet.
but I think it's a flashback to
Yeah, Stars.
Starscream.
Yeah.
What's going on with Starscream? So we have this Corona variant cover with Cliff Jumper has a great scene that lives up to his name.
Yes.
This, which is awesome. And then we've got a couple of incentives, which are very cool. So we've got this 1 in 10 Darbo variant we're selling for $6.99. Spike's on the cover, but I don't think he's in this issue.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if any humans are in this issue.
Yeah, there's one.
Okay, so one.
Driving the van.
Oh, yeah. But briefly.
Right.
We've got a 1 in 25 Stevens variant for $19.99. I love that one.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome. There's a really cool new Optimus Prime at Target I really want. There is a 1 in 50 Walker variant for $39.99. So if you want to see what the Transformers look like if they were in the first run of Invincible, there you go. And lastly, we have a 1 in 50 variant as well. This is the Wes Craig. You're going to be seeing Wes Craig everywhere.
Yep.
We're selling for $19.99.
All right, well, I want to talk about the Venom War some more because we also have Venom number 37. This is a Venom War tie-in, and this is continuing the story of Old Man Dylan Brock coming back from the past. A lot of time travel in this show, too. A lot of dark time travel stuff. But last issue, he came back from his future to his past, which is our present, to build this weapon for young Dylan Brock that's going to help. I can't remember. There was like a phrase they had, but basically to prevent.
Zippity is that?
Yeah, the destruction of his future, basically. And that involved him going back further into the past to get like 3 different components to build this machine. And the first one was going back and extracting some like Molten from Molten Man.
Oh, cool.
So last issue he traveled back to Molten Man's first appearance.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, and it was really cool that they actually borrowed like some panel, like they redrew it, but it was the same dialogue. You know, I matched it up with Molten Man's first appearance. Well, at the beginning of this issue is still set in that time. And Spider-Man, who is still a young Spider-Man, a pre-black suit Spider-Man, pre-symbiote Spider-Man, sees that this old Dylan Brock is messing with Molten Man, so he tries to stop him, and old man Dylan Brock whips out the symbiote, and looks like Venom. So it's actually kind of neat to see a young Peter Parker, still fairly early in his Spider-Man career, see Venom in front of him when he has never seen Venom at that point in time. But unfortunately, that's only a small part of the issue, but I wanted to talk about that because it was super cool. But in that same time period, old man Dylan then goes to visit Doctor Strange. So now we're with Doctor Strange in the past, and says that he needs to see Chthon, which is pretty, that's a pretty big deal, right? And to prove that he's telling the truth about everything, Dylan lets Doctor Strange look into his mind. And in that sequence, we get a little bit more of a glimpse into the horrible future he came from, which I think in the last issue I said is kind of a mix between like the Matrix and Terminator with these machines. But I believe they're like symbiote infected machines. And it's just weird stuff, but it's really cool. So then Doctor Strange believes him. They transport to the Flickering Realms, which is where Chthon resides. But you can't just walk up to Chthon and say, hey, man, what's up? They run into some very nasty demons. And that's where we'll have to see how that all shakes out next issue. But just another cool Venom War tie-in. Cafu on art. It looks great. And yeah, I just thought it was cool to see a young Spider-Man take on a Venom. I thought that was neat, even though it wasn't, a major part of the story. But there is our A cover right there, and we have this really cool Godzilla variant. I want to see that story as well. A big Venomized Godzilla. I don't think there's any stopping that. Like you're done for if you see that.
Until he fights Carnage Mothra.
That's right.
Did they give any indication there of like then Spider-Man gets hit on the head and that's why he doesn't remember?
Oh, actually, I did make a note about that though. I said it's cool to see Spider-Man fight Venom before he had ever seen the black costume. And then in parentheses I have, though I do wonder how that might mess with the Marvel timeline, but they just kind of shoo it away. I don't think about that, so it's kind of funny.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Well, next up, I have Ultimate Black Panther number 8. This is a really cool issue of Ultimate Black Panther. Ultimate Black Panther goes through stages of like, there's very little action. It's a lot of story and everything. And then it will hit every few issues with a big action issue. And that's what this has. For the most part, this is an all action issue for like the first 2/3 of it, something like that. where what I didn't realize is, but it says kind of in the opening thing that the Wakandan forces have been fighting Ron Khonshu for months
Oh,
at
okay.
this point, which I was like, man, this, I guess, if this is going by real time, like a lot of the Ultimate books are doing, yeah, they've been fighting for a
Yeah.
while, and it seems like it's really escalated
Hmm.
to where they are all out like ground,
That escalated quickly.
yeah, that
Yeah.
ground fighting, and T'Challa's there in his suit fighting when he goes up against a very big foe that has a kind of greenish sword. And everything's going well until Black Panther gets stabbed with it, and that is seems like going to be a game changer for this. Not because it kills him, but because of what happens
Yeah.
next. I don't want to give away too much because it's really interesting, but it seems like some of the elements that we've been dealing with in this, that weird kind of moon-looking rock and vibranium and all of that, we see some more of, maybe what happens when those two elements meet.
Yeah. Well, when he gets stabbed with his special sword, and it does knock him out for I think a few days, 7 days, I think is what
Yeah,
they said. And while he's out, he has visions of vibranium, which gives us more of a clue as to what exactly is vibranium on this Earth.
yeah,
And it seems like it's a little bit different than the 616 Earth vibranium that we're
yeah,
used to.
yeah. It's very interesting. To now that we're gonna start unraveling this, and we may be running into uh Black Panther going forward having even more power.
Yeah. We do see him do something in this that we've never seen him do in 616 before. Yeah.
Yes. But what's going on with Storm and Killmonger as they have been hunting for a magic user, which we kind of figure we know where it's leading
Uh-huh.
to with they talk about a strange doctor
Yeah.
and all of that. So in this, we do see them. Maybe it seems like their quest to find whoever this character is going to be intense and potentially very deadly. I don't want to give away too much, but you don't see who I you see a character. I don't think that is going to be your ultimate Doctor Strange, but there is maybe going to be some people in the way of getting to whoever that ultimate
Well,
Doctor Strange
yeah,
is.
we don't want to give too much away, but I do think we need to mention that because I have some notes about that character. They meet this new character who when I first saw him, I was like, oh, that's this universe's
Yeah,
Doctor Strange, but he's never referred to by name. And they do say something at the end, which makes me think, oh, maybe that's not Doctor Strange.
yeah.
However, he does kind of look like an older, grayer Doctor Strange. He does seem like he's some kind of mystic. If it's not, so I don't want to say that this is the first appearance of Ultimate Universe Doctor Strange because we don't know that. We don't know for sure. But there's a character at the end that I don't know if he's just a guy.
Throwaway
Yeah, if he's
character.
just like is he like some kind of monk that tends the library? I don't know. But there's somebody at the end of this issue who may or may not be, it's 50-50. He might be, he might not be. We do not know. But there's
I'll
somebody
have to
there.
say, and we'll discuss about after this. Now that you've said that, it does make me wonder about something that maybe that could be Doctor Strange but he's referring to something else.
Right.
We'll have to see.
Yeah, we
We
don't
don't
know.
know. That's all to say that we're just speculating on this,
Yeah.
but really good issue, and I feel like it's probably one of my favorite issues of this so far just cuz there's a lot going on in
Hmm.
it. So that is our slowly unraveling
Yeah.
what's going on in Ultimate Black Panther number 8. And we also have a Kevin Coley variant that we're selling. So 1 in 25 we're selling for 14.99.
All right. Well, we have DC versus Vampires World War V number 2 here. And the vampire in this one, the vampires that have been under Barbara Gordon, because in this whole world, the vampires are split into two camps basically, and the humans are caught in the middle, and they have this uneasy truce with uh, the vampires under Barbara Gordon. Well, those vampires, they want Damien's head. He is leading the other faction of vampires. They want his head for something that he did last issue, and they want the humans to deliver it to them, or else their truce is over. And we do see a vampire version of a character that I think you'll like to see. So they basically say, "Bring us Damien's head, or else our truce is done, and then you're going to be dead really fast." So now the humans have to figure out how to even do this, right? Well, while all that's going on, there's another subplot where Green Arrow leads a small team of human allies to blow up the factory that produces the vampire's fake blood supply. But they go in there, they set the charges, and they're like, wait a minute, what is actually in here? Maybe we shouldn't do this. So that's very interesting as well. We'll definitely learn more about that. There's also a sequence with vampire Diana, because she's a vampire, and Talia al Ghul and Alfred that has a couple of different surprises in it. I showed you one of them, and
I was like, what?
yeah, it was pretty funny. So there's stuff going on there as well. Like I said, a couple big surprises in that sequence. And this also contains part one of a backup story featuring Batmite and Geoforce. Because it seems, yeah, right. Because it seems that Batmite doesn't really know what is that any of this has happened at all, and he shows up, and he's looking for Batman and can't find him, but Geoforce is there, and some fun things happen with that too. So just another really cool, Elseworlds story featuring DC versus vampires. So we have our A cover right there, and we have this really cool Casper Wingard. Should have recognized that off the bat. Casper Wingard variant.
Man, when's the last time we saw Geoforce?
I don't even know. Probably in the background of some event somewhere. Yeah.
Okay, next up, I've got Amazing Spider-Man number 57. Not a whole lot to talk about with this one if you haven't been reading it, but Tombstone went to trial in the last one, and it seems like he has been put away for good. Well, maybe not so much.
Maybe not.
The villains in the Marvel Universe seem to get away pretty easily when he does make bail, and that really freaks out Spider-Man and Peter Parker. Both sides of his personality are equally worried about this, and he is convinced that Tombstone is going to come after Randy Robertson.
Yeah.
Because surely Tombstone would not go after his own daughter after all of this, but this does lead to some pretty hectic stuff as they are kind of preparing, like, we got to get away from here, but knowing that Tombstone is hot on their tail. Plus, She-Hulk's in this, has a great moment.
Yeah.
There's some really good action in this. So, really interesting as we are leading to the end of Zeb Wells' run on Amazing Spider-Man. And I'll be interested to see kind of what ends up with this Tombstone story now that we were talking about this. It feels like this would have fit really well closer to the gang war storyline,
really
because
would've.
it is picking up a lot of those pieces. Would have been kind of a great next story arc to that, but good to be going back to that now to get some closure on some of that. So that is your A cover, and this scene does actually happen.
Yeah, it does.
Like exactly like that with Spider-Man wearing the suit and everything. So that's pretty fun.
Yeah.
I like when it's like, this cover's wild, but that does happen.
That could be the first page of the book.
Yeah. And then we also have this Campana variant. And of course, we've got our Disney variant, classic Hawkeye Ant-Man
There's
cover.
Mickey Hawkeye again, just like we saw in the What If Donald Duck Wolverine.
Yeah, we actually have seen that character like in a comic. And lastly, we have this 1 in 25. Not sure who did the cover, but it is $14.99.
It's really cool. Yeah, I've been hot and cold on this whole run of Amazing Spider-Man, but I like this issue. I thought it was really good. There's some cool stuff in this. All right, so next up we've got Death in the Family, Robin Lives, number 3. This is the next to last issue, I believe. Yeah, next to last issue of this series. And it starts, it's actually pretty cool because the first page starts with a scene of Joker lying dead on the ground from being shot in the head by Jason Todd. But then the story backs up a little bit to show us how we got there. Although they never get back to that in this issue. So maybe next issue. But Jason Todd has gone out into the city. He's waging a one-man war. Basically, it's the typical I'm gonna beat up every bad guy until somebody squeals and tells me where Joker is. It's kind of that thing. And Batman and Nightwing, they scour the city looking for Jason. Because he's not dealing with his pain and his trauma very well, and it's kind of sending him over the deep end a little bit. Not a whole lot to say about this because it's very a little bit dialogue heavy. It's a lot of psychology and just all the stuff that Jason's going through. But I will say that the ending is really interesting, and it shows just how psychologically damaged Jason is. We've had some scenes, especially in the last issue, of him talking to his I can't remember her name, but his therapist basically about everything that he's gone through, and he keeps saying I'm fine, and every time every now and then it looks like maybe there's a little bit of a breakthrough, but at the end of this issue, you're like, oh wow, he maybe is a little bit farther gone than we
Mm.
thought. So it was just really cool. So we have this nice A cover right here, and then we have this really cool In-Hyuk Lee variant with Jason Todd.
Next up, I've got Spider-Gwen Ghost-Spider #5. This is really good. This wraps up this storyline, even though there seems to be a bigger storyline going on kind of behind the scenes. But the storyline that's been going on with Chameleon is kind of wrapped up in this as Gwen takes Chameleon, who now is pretty messed up, takes him with her as she kind of escapes because when she demonstrated this new power she has that she doesn't quite understand, this like big blast,
Big Kamehameha.
yeah, it messed up Chameleon, who uh, during this has had nanites do his
Mm.
chameleon thing, which actually even gave him powers of the characters that he turned into. Well, her supercharge has messed with him, and he starts to glitch out. He can't stop switching between characters, all of that, and you'll have to see what happens there. But Gwen does learn the identity of who hired Chameleon to hunt her down. But why, all of that, we're not quite sure. But we do see who that is and a little bit of what's going on with them. So, really cool final part of this first story arc. That is your A cover.
Is that cover supposed to sort of represent Chameleon
I
bouncing through
think,
all these different?
yeah, yeah, that's, I think that's what that's supposed to be. And then we also have this Godzilla and Hyuk Lee variant
That's
as
super
well.
cool. I'd love to see that story as well.
Yep.
Just give me a bunch of Marvel Godzilla stuff. All right, well, I want to talk about Vengeance of the Moon Knight #9 just real quick because this is the last issue of this series before it rolls into Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu #1, I believe, next month. So, you know, you had Jed McKay's 30 issue run of Moon Knight, then you had this little 9 issue deal with, just in case you don't know, I won't spoil it, but with somebody else as Moon Knight. But that is all wrapped up as of Blood Hunt. So it's now ending. We're going into a new Moon Knight series. Mark Spector is back as Moon Knight. You know, as of you saw that in Blood Hunt if you read that. But so is Khonshu. He's back as well. And Khonshu wants Moon Knight, Mark Spector, to kill the person who was masquerading as Moon Knight. He's like, you know, bring me their head, or yeah, I want a body as penance for all this. And I will say that Mark Spector, Moon Knight, and the, you know, we'll call him the false Moon Knight, they do fight each other across several pages, and it's really cool. But does Moon Knight actually kill the false Moon Knight? I'm not going to tell you. You have to read it to find out. But it was a cool issue. And you know, the whole Jed McKay's everything with Moon Knight has been great, and I can't wait to see how this rolls into the new Moon Knight series next month. So we have our A cover right there, and of course we've got this. Now this would be cool. Godzilla versus Khonshu variant. That would be something to see.
Next up for me, I've got Geiger #6. I just want to talk about this issue because it was really, really fun. This is a Barney-centric issue,
Mm.
Barney being the two-headed dog, Geiger's companion. And he's kind of suffering after everything that went on with the electrician and the previous storyline. Barney went through a lot, and he wanders off from their camp where he finds himself in a zoo, kind of a, before all the craziness happened. It was a zoo, and some of the animals still live there, but they have been changed by the fallout. And Barney sees a three-eyed zebra
Huh.
that he decides to follow. He's not going to hunt it. He's
Yeah.
just Barney's really smart, and he wants to investigate a little bit further. And comes into this zoo where he finds out that there are hunters hunting these creatures in there to sell back to, which is nice getting a reference, the people in Vegas.
Oh
All the
yeah.
different kingdoms in Vegas, they're talking about which people would want what animals and stuff. And initially, Barney and some of the animals, uh, you can tell they're very afraid. But when the hunters start going after this three-eyed zebra, it's like a baby zebra. He will not have any of it, and maybe he can wrangle some of the other crazy animals to help him. A really good, almost a silent issue, but there is dialogue with Geiger in the beginning and the end, and the hunters talking. But with the animals, it's it's cool to see the interaction between them, but silent. So I think this is a really fun kind of in between issue. But someone new does join the party of Geiger and the Atomic Knight and Barney. Someone else new enters there. So
Hmm.
very cool. So there is your A cover. We also have this Peralta variant. And we have this Francis Manipul cover.
All right, well, I've got here Absolute Power Task Force 7, number 6. This is the next to last issue of this Absolute Power tie-in series. This one is by Stephanie Williams and Carrie Randolph. And this issue focuses on Paradise Lost, which is the quote-unquote Wonder Woman Amazo, the Amazo robot that stole Wonder Woman's powers. And because it absorbed Wonder Woman's powers and her memories, it's able to locate and enter Themyscira. It's normally cloaked, but it knows where to find it. But when it gets there, Amanda Waller gives it new targets from which to absorb powers, but they're in a very special place on this island. It's not like you can just walk up and like absorb their powers. There's something different with these new targets that it's been given. And most of the issue is the Amazons trying to prevent Paradise Lost from from carrying out those new orders with little success. And I'm not going to spoil what happens at the end, but it's something does happen at the end. It's very interesting, and I look forward to seeing how it might play into future stories with Wonder Woman and the Amazons beyond Absolute Power. So yeah, just another cool, tie. And I've been enjoying this series quite a bit so far, and this is another good one. So we have our A cover right there. We have some really cool variants too. This is the Lyrics variant with Paradise Lost right there. We have this Carrie Randolph and Alex Gamares variant with Queen Nubia. Of course, we have our Stephen Platt mugshot variant. She's got some guns on her.
Yeah. Shoulders for days.
Yeah, we got our John Timms connecting variant.
If you want to cover with Dead,
With
Animal Man.
Yeah, right. And then the ones that I've been getting, the Dan Mora foil variant. These look so good.
And lastly, for me, I did not get a chance to read this because it came in late. But Red Before Black #2 came out, and I really liked issue #1, and I'm really looking forward to reading issue #2. So just wanted to remind you this new Stephanie Phillips book is continuing this week and looks really cool.
I've got one more Absolute Power tie. Did you have any variants?
Nope.
Okay, I got one more Absolute Power tie in Green Lantern #15. Jeremy Adams and Fernando Pasarin working on this one. Now, in Absolute Power #3, we saw Nightwing tell Hal and Wally to go break into the Hall of Order and steal some computer files from Amanda Waller. And this issue shows them doing that. So it's kind of a nice tie into that. Part of that plan, it's really cool, involves Hal using an experimental bat plane that we actually saw him piloting on the A cover of the previous issue. So it seems like that cover should have been on this one. But so that they're doing that. Him and Wally are. We also see more of Alan Scott and Jade Stone, and we see the effect that absorbing Alan Scott's powers has on Jade Stone, and that does like that whole storyline that we saw in Absolute Power Task Force 7 #3 that pays off in this issue.
Nice.
So that does come back around, and there is something that happens because of all that. We also see Carol Ferris, aka Star Sapphire. She takes on her fiance Nate, who she left at the altar a few issues ago to go be with Hal. Well, he is now a full-on villain named Sorrow, and he seems like he is a lantern powered foe as well, almost not like with a ring and constructs, but almost like how Black Lantern is. And I think it's all as a result. There Hal has said for several issues there is something wrong with the emotional spectrum, and that's how Nate has become this Sorrow villain. But yeah, just another really cool issue. There's lots of different little subplots, but lots of things happening but things that happen in this, I can undoubtedly guarantee that will feed into the end of the Absolute Power event when number 4 rolls around, but also leads into the next big story arc for Green Lantern as well beyond all that. So just lots of stuff going on here that's really cool. So there's our A cover right there. We have our Chris Samney variant. I love these ones. This is the Simone DeMeo variant. This is the Nicola Scott variant. She's been doing a bunch of those. This is the Jose Luis Garcia Lopez variant with Kyle Rayner for Hispanic Heritage Month. And then we have this really cool 1 in 25 Kung variant that we're selling for $14.99. And there is how customizing that experimental Batplane.
Gotta make sure you know it's Green Lanterns.
Yeah, it's all about branding,
Is that it?
That's it.
Well, that is it for this big show. Hopefully you found something here that interests you. So head on over to infinityflux.net right now where you can order it. All the things we talked about should be available right now. So just head on over there and pick out which ones you like.
Or all of them.
Or all of them. We won't stop you. So we've got our shows coming up on this weekend. I did want to mention because on our show Wednesday and Friday are early, where you can order your books early. The In a Flash show and Comics from the Future is going to be Absolute Batman #1.
Yeah.
So this is a big one. We are getting into all of the Absolute stuff coming up very, very soon.
Yep.
So don't miss out on that. That's just another reason to head over to the website and check it all out and pre-order your books there. And do I have anything else to say?
That's it. Go to the website, order books. Yeah, come see us if you're local, or if not, drive in. Let us know what book you're most excited for this week, though.
Yeah.
Let us know that you made it to the end of the video. So much good stuff this week.
So much good stuff.
Mhm.
So until next time, we'll see ya.
See ya.